Hello, this is Roman Gabriel, and you are listening to The Grilling Truth.
Welcome to Survive and Advance on the Grilling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about Replenishing Care, go to thegrilling.truth.net, click the banner. It will take you straight there. I'm your host for the show, Mike Goodpaster, and of course, my co-host, won a national championship with the Indiana Hoosiers in 1981, and as he likes to tell everybody, is a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley.
Hello, welcome. Mike, are you a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame?
No, because...
No, you're not. So you can't say that then. So I can. So why would I not say that?
Yeah, but do you have a ring from high school?
A ring from high school?
Yeah,
I have numerous. Neither did you. So...
Yeah.
Move on.
I'm not the one that likes to. Do you have a ring from the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame?
We got a good show tonight. We got a good show tonight. This isn't a basketball show tonight. Move forward.
He always ignores it, Brian, when I bring up, do you have a ring from the Basketball Hall of Fame? And our guest today.
I do have a ring from the Basketball Hall of Fame. Yes, I do have a ring from the Basketball Hall of Fame. I do have that.
Did you buy it yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay. No more questions then. You just answered everything.
Okay.
Our guest today.
But you know what? I had a right to buy it. Like you don't have that right to buy it. I had a right to buy one, so
I bet you
got an order for
I could have one bought within the next 24 minutes on the internet. Our guest today.
All right.
I thought we were getting off this, Steve. Our guest today was the original on-air personality of the Golf Channel. Help us welcome to the Grueling Truth, Brian Hammons. How you doing, Brian?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. And Mike, I just want to tell you, you're the first guy brave enough to give Steve Risley a voice in the media. So, congratulations.
Do you have the words brave and dumb mixed up, you think?
Hammons, when you were an intern at WRTV6, I made you famous. You always came to me for a stupid interview, and I gave it to you.
Well, the one thing I did
you or Knight.
Yeah, Brian, the thing I found out
either you or Bob Knight, and Knight would chew my ass out, so I didn't want to.
That's right. See, all you guys that are chicken shit of Knight, you're afraid of Knight. Just go ahead.
Well, the only thing I do know is if you want a dumb interview, Steve is the place to go. All right. I know Steve's all excited about it. Our show this week is previewing the 2018 U.S. Open. So I'll go ahead and I'll let Steve start it since Steve is our golf expert. I made the little quotation marks around it when I said that. But go ahead, Steve. The floor is yours.
I wouldn't say golf expert, just somebody who's passionate about the game. But, of course, we know this is the week of the U.S. Open, which is why we're doing this show tonight. What we call the country's greatest golfing event. It is our major tournament to be our national champion in the United States. And this week it's being played at probably one of the most reverent golf courses in the United States. And before we get into the breakdown of the players and playing who's hot, who's not, who's going to do well, I think we should, Brian, spend a little bit of time talking about Shinnecock Hills because it's tremendously a very special place in the lore of golf in the world and in the United States.
Well, there are a lot of players that consider Shinnecock the best major championship venue in the world. So it is very highly regarded. Now, the interesting thing to me is this is a different Shinnecock Hills that we're going to see that we last saw in 2004. Raymond Floyd won there in '86 when he was 43 years old. Corey Pavin won there the U.S. Open in '95. Retief Goosen won there in 2004. But it was played less than 7,000 yards then. Now it's playing 7,400 plus. They've widened the fair. The new friendly, kinder, gentler USGA has kind of softened the course a little bit. They've widened the fairways. The average fairway width in 2004 was 24 yards. Well, now the average fairway width is like 40 yards. They've widened the fairways. So I'm interested to see how this golf course, this new Shinnecock Hills, if you will play under a major championship setup.
Brian, does that really make that big of a difference? Because where this course sits, it sits out on Long Island, and basically it's an unprotected course by anything. It is very much a link-style course. And I think, wasn't it the last tournament there when Goosen won that they had the issue where they couldn't even mark the balls on the green, or was that Pavin's year in '95 where the wind was blowing hard?
No, that was in '04 when Goosen won, and they were coming off of a U.S. Open at Olympia Fields where they just tore it up, and the score was really low. And so the next year they wanted to get back to the U.S. Open type setup. And our friend Tom Meeks was then the director of rules and competition for the USGA, and he set up the golf course, and they set it up very, very difficult. And in fact, the real controversy there was the seventh hole, the par 3. They had to water it during the final round to keep balls from rolling off the green. And it's, you can go on YouTube and find putts that, that are really good shots that were penalized and putts that would just roll off the green. And that went over the top. In fact, Phil Mickelson was tied with Retief Goosen on the 17th hole and 3-putted from 5 feet and ended up losing to Goosen. So, now I'm real interested to see how the setup is. It's still a very, very difficult golf course. You got to drive it in the fairway. The approach, you got to have the right angle into the greens. The greens are going to be very severe, but it's just going to be a little easier as far as with the wider fairways. I think that brings in a little bit more of an advantage to the longer hitters because you got to hit the fairways, and you give them more room to do that.
We'll talk a little bit, too, because, the East Coast, for the last part of this month, or, for the most part of this month, has been under deluge, basically. I know it's rained on the East Coast all day again today. I know Michigan, the NASCAR race was rained out after 130 laps. How will the water, will that allow the rough or the fescue stuff to grow up thicker and make, off fairway more difficult? Without getting the roll, if the fairways get softer, will the USGA work to protect that, or because the grounds are going to be softer probably than they would normally be, because usually that place bakes out on the East Coast sun.
Right, and I think if they can't get it hard and fast, if it's hard and fast, then I don't think there's that much of an advantage to the long hitters. But if it's not, if it's soft, the advantage definitely is to the bombers because. Soft fairways, the ball will stay in the fairway more, and the ball won't roll out for the shorter hitters. So the length will definitely be advantage, especially now that it's 400 and some yards longer than it was in 2004. So what kind of conditions are we going to? I think the forecast for the rest of the week is really good. I don't know what the wind's going to be. That's the unpredictable element there, in Shinnecock. It's exposed, as you mentioned, so it could be very windy and make it more difficult. But if it's not hard and fast, I'm not sure that. I think you're going to have the long hitters at the top of the leaderboard if it's soft.
What's your opinion? Because I know the USGA generally sets these courses up for par to be close to a winning score. Is that good golf? Is that really what people want to watch? And, you spend so much time broadcasting and announcing this. Do people want to see par, people struggling to make par? Do they want to see guys attacking pins, going at birdies? And I don't really see Shinnecock as a course that really is going to allow people to do a lot of attacking unless it stays soft, very soft. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're right. I think 4 or 5 under would be a really good score. And I think somebody would take that right now and take their chances. But I kind of like it because, you get good scoring at the Masters. You can get really good scoring at the Open Championship. The PGA Championship is always a lot under par. I don't mind deciding our national champion on a very difficult golf course, as long as it's fair. I don't like where you have no shot to get to the green if you're in the rough, and you might see the rough is so severe at Shinnecock. You might see that if you miss a fairway, you may not be able to get to the green. But I don't mind seeing par being a good score for our national championship. Not every week we want to, but for the U.S. Open, I don't mind that.
And I would tend to agree with you on that. Yeah, I really wouldn't want to see, and I think that's some of the luster of the Masters is taken away. When they went into that so-called tiger proofing of the back nine, I think the things that you miss a lot, like in a course like Augusta, was players like Nicklaus being able to go on a big birdie run in 86 and play well and win it by making birdies, as opposed to now you see the Spieths of the world, tanking 3 or 4 balls into the water on 12 or something and giving it away because the course has just become so severe, and they've done that kind of to Augusta too. So I see both sides of the fence, but I do love a true test of golf. These are the greatest golfers in the world, and they should be put under the same strain that I was put under this morning at the 400-yard par 4 tempo on my course, where I couldn't get there in 2 today because we had an offshore headwind coming in off the Pacific Ocean right off of Malibu. So it was tough. It was really brutal.
I'm glad that you compared your round of golf this morning to the U.S. Open. That's great.
Steve's got a rough life in L.A.
Hey, both courses are par 70. Both courses are par 70. Now, Brian, because this is such a true link-style course, and after this we'll get into the players that are hot and the players that are not, and who's going to be a front runner and a long horse. But because this is such a link-style course, does it bring more European players into the fold where they become maybe a little bit more experienced at playing this style of golf than many U.S. players? Because our guys play such well-manicured, cut in the middle of forest type courses and Pete Dye courses, Nicklaus courses that are set up for aesthetics more so than difficult play. So are we going to see more European flair into this tournament than we normally would in a major?
You could if it's hard and fast. If it's soft, then you still got to play it through the air. You won't have any options as far as playing it along the ground like you can on true links courses over in Europe and in Scotland. But maybe I would certainly say that a couple of guys that I would consider favorites are Europeans, and Rory McIlroy and Justin Rose. I think those two guys both have a real good chance to win, and they probably have more experience on links courses than a lot of other players. But if it's hard and fast, you might see an advantage to the players that are more accustomed to playing those type of courses.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And just before we get into the players here, just for anybody who wants fun facts, you're sitting around watching it. Shinnecock Hills is the first ever golf course incorporated as a golf club that ever was incorporated in the United States, and it is one of the 5 founding members of the USGA. And it hosted the second U.S. Open. So if you're sitting there and you're watching Tiger 3-putt from 4 feet and you want to try and lighten up the mood, throw a fact like that out there. And you'll realize what this place is. It's on the National Historic Landmarks. It's a very, very revered piece of ground in the golfing world and in the United States. So let's get into Mike, do you have any questions? We've kind of not asked you if you have anything intelligent to say about the game of golf, which I doubt, but give it a shot.
Really? So it's like talking to you about any other sport?
Yeah, except Indiana basketball.
Yeah. Indiana basketball, yeah. You know basketball. Do you know anybody else, Brian, that thought Michigan would beat Villanova for the national championship and then followed it up by picking Cleveland to beat Golden State in the NBA Finals?
No, that was a pretty gutsy call there to pick Cleveland. But, Steve, you probably already learned this about Steve. He just likes to be the contrarian. So whatever you say, he's going to go the opposite way and argue like hell.
Yeah.
So
we say that we let Dawkins be the captain of that boat. That's Dan's territory. We don't step on hollow ground of Dan Dawkins. We leave him alone. So.
All right. So
Mike, got anything?
I want to remind people real quick, if you want to ask a question to Brian or Steve, you can hit us up on Spreaker. You could also hit us up at Grueling Truth at Twitter if you have any questions there. We all know that this guy's going to be brought up. We talked about before we don't want to make it a 35-minute show, but of course, even Steve's already said it. So I think the big one sticking out there for most casual fans is, what kind of chance does Tiger Woods have here? I would think with the weather and everything like that you would want to have a consistent player. And I would think that would not be Tiger at this point.
Well, it depends on which one shows up, which Tiger shows up. I mean, he hit the ball so well at the Memorial, well enough to win a U.S. Open, but he putted horribly. But to me, that was encouraging, because if he hits the ball like that, and because he's going to figure out the putting, that's not going to be something that's going to bug him very long. He's going to figure it out, and he's going to become a great putter again. And it could be this week. And if he hits the ball like he did at the Memorial and he putts anywhere close to where he normally putts, he can win it. There's no question. And that'd be a great story. I don't think he would. I wouldn't bet on him because, he hasn't proven yet that he can drive it well enough. If he drives it like he did at the Memorial, no issues. But if he doesn't, if he hits a few errant drives, that's really costly at Shinnecock. So I wouldn't bet on him, but could he win? Absolutely.
The thing that's scary about Tiger is all the things that you talked about, Brian, in my watching him play, is that all the things you mentioned, he's done well at some point since his comeback. I mean, the first few tournaments, his putting carried him that he came back. He was still all over the place with a driver. He changed shafts. He was experimenting with different clubs, finally got into a new set of irons. And it was putting that was carrying him to top 20 finishes. Now, all of a sudden, he's starting to hit the ball extremely well off the tee box. He's hitting a 3-wood farther than most guys hit drivers. But now it seems like his putting's gone away a little bit. I mean, now it's like his chipping, his short game, which is when before he took his sabbatical, was really what was the most obvious glaring faux pas in his game. Was he was virtually just chili dipping chips a lot and had no short game. But what's scary about him, like you say, in my opinion, is he's done flashes of brilliance this year so far at every facet of the game. You're right, though, that he's just never put them together all in one time. And I think when he does, it's going to be a magical experience for those that believe and want to see him come back and win again. And then
it could be this week.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, no venue safe when Tiger plays like Tiger. It has the capability of playing. I think that's a fair statement.
My question to Brian would be this. With a golfer, I would think a lot of that he's been off with the injuries and all the other stuff that's happened in his life. With the putting, that has to be a lot of just a confidence thing too, isn't it?
Yeah, but it could have been last week or the Memorial could have been just a minor setup issue, and that's something he could correct real easily. Whoever he's working with, and he's really not working with anybody right now. His caddy could say, "Hey, look, you're lined up too far left, or you've got the ball too far back in your stance, or whatever it might be," and he may have worked that out, the next day, and he's fine. So I don't. Again, it's like Steve said. If he can just put it all together, then it's going to be a great week. And I'd like, this would be a great place for him to have a great week and win again. But I wouldn't bet on him because he hasn't shown the ability yet to put it all together since he's come back.
All right.
But to me, it was encouraging. It was encouraging to me to see him hit the ball so well at the Memorial because putting's an easy fix.
All right, real quick, we got a question through the Grueling Truth Twitter page, and that is about Phil Mickelson, who, of course, lost it in 2004, 6-time runner-up. We've got Rick from Beaumont, Texas, who wants to know, what you think the chances are for Lefty to do something this week?
I'd love to see it, but I wouldn't give him much of a chance. He turns 48 years old on Saturday of U.S. Open week. And that would be 3 years older than the oldest player ever to win the U.S. Open. Hale Irwin was 45 when he won the U.S. Open in 1990. There's a guy that, he's going to miss fairways. And that is so costly at Shinnecock. I just don't, I'd love to see Phil win the U.S. Open and complete the career Grand Slam. But I just don't see it. I just don't.
Hey, Brian.
No, I'm not saying he won't win the major again, but that wouldn't be the one.
Is it me, or do you sense? And I, obviously, I think very fondly of Phil as a player too, because us older guys got to all stick together. But do you sense, in some degree, and I sense it, but I'm not the genius that you are in this game, that Phil is really feeling the pressure of Tiger's return. It seems to me that he's pressing a lot more than he was, and he was a lot more freelance and free-flowing, it seemed to me, when Tiger wasn't around. But now that Tiger's back and Tiger's starting to take some of that notoriety back, it seems like Phil's just pressing more than normal. Is that a wrong?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, because he won earlier this year, and that broke a several-year drought. So,
right, but Tiger wasn't around.
So he's
Tiger
playing
still,
well.
He was mowing.
Yeah, Tiger wasn't around when. Right.
Yeah.
I don't.
But now that Tiger's
I
back,
don't think so.
it's like I'm watching Phil hit shots that he normally doesn't hit. I mean, he's missing fairways at a greater – he's just missing shots that normally you're so inclined and used to seeing Phil just nail them. It's like he was such a clutch player. He seems to be becoming a little bit less of a clutch player. And I don't know if that's a Tiger effect or what, which brings me to my next question.
I wouldn't say that. But Phil basically schedules himself around the major championships. I'm not saying he doesn't care about playing the other events, and he's one of the few great players that likes to play the week before a major championship. He played this week in Memphis. Didn't play well, but I wouldn't say. I think he really focuses on the major championships, and especially the U.S. Open, because that's the only major that's missing on his resume, and he would love to have that career Grand Slam.
Yeah. Which leads me a little bit to my next question. It ties kind of almost right into it. What's your opinion, and I see the USGA doing it now too, of these so-called super groups that they're creating now for these events? Like, they've got Justin Thomas, DJ, and they've got Tiger paired together. They've got Phil paired up with Spieth and McIlroy. And, I kind of get the sense that some of the players that are getting stuck in these super groups that really don't want to be there, they think it's just too much of a distraction or too much audience around them. Is that distracting, or is that – I know it's good for television golf. I get that. But is it good for the players on the course to have that kind of a – Go ahead.
Well, the reason they do it is, you mentioned, the reason they do it is for television. I mean, they do it every week on the PGA Tour because they call them featured groups. And you watch those featured groups on PGA Tour Live on Thursday and Friday. It just, I'm not going to pay, people aren't going to pay to subscribe to PGA Tour Live, which is a terrific thing to have, to watch no names. So when my featured group is Tiger, Phil, and Justin Thomas, I'm going to pay to watch that because if they're not on TV,
and I get that in the daily grind of a regular, the St. Jude Classic in Memphis. I get that to bolster attendance or viewership and that, but these are the major events. And these, do they need to be doing that kind of stuff? In these major events,
it goes back to the television. The USGA has a digital presence too. That's not just on Fox Sports. They have a digital presence, and they have featured group coverage. So they know that we want people to watch our featured group coverage, our USGA on the USGA website. So we've got Justin Thomas, Tiger Woods, and Dustin Johnson on Thursday morning. So that they do it for that reason, to draw an audience for their featured group coverage, or in this case, their digital coverage. Yeah, it does it. So, are there players that don't like it? Yeah, absolutely, but there's not much they can do about it.
Yeah, I see the point. I just think at the majors, in my opinion, it's not really necessary. Just let the chips fall where they may. I'll go out and play the first 2 rounds on your assigned groups, and let the players on the last 2 days form their own groups, which is what essentially happens. They form their own groups, and by the way, they're playing that given week, and that's kind of the way I've always thought of golf. In which, then I ask the next question: why do we have to insanely sit through live from U.S. Open for 4 hours while Tiger's on the course? I'm listening to some announcer from the Golf Channel yakking for 4 hours when I could be watching Tiger. Or then I've got to go to pregame for an hour while Tiger's playing, or Phil, or whoever your favorite player is. Why don't they just put the golf on all day long? Wasn't that what the Golf Channel was designed to do, is just show golf?
You're showing your lack of media knowledge at this point, because the Golf Channel has zero rights to televise the U.S. Open. That's Fox.
Yeah, I get that. The U.S. Open picked it out, but we did that with Memorial. We picked up. We missed virtually all of Tiger's last round. In the third round, and instead I'm listening to Rich Lerner yak about the history of the game, but I really don't give a damn about the history of the game. I want to see Tiger play. And why do we?
Well, then you're going to have to. Then you're going to have to subscribe. Then you're going to have to subscribe to the USGA featured group coverage this weekend, or PGA Tour Live, and watch featured group coverage. And then you can watch every shot Tiger hits.
Who dictates? I mean,
That's the way of the world of golf media these days.
Yeah. I applaud Fox, because Fox has got coverage from 7 o'clock in the morning until the course shuts down, virtually all 4 days. I mean, and I don't know how they pulled that off, but you're going to be able to get God knows how many hours of watching the U.S. Open. Not that anybody has that kind of time to do it, but you pick and choose your spots and DVR the spots where you can watch and you want to watch the players you want to watch. It just seems to me that television golf ought to get back more into that and showing more golf rather than guys thinking they know everything in the world there is about golf. Most of those guys are in that booth because they can't play golf anymore.
The PGA Tour limits how many hours you can be on the air, so that's not all Golf Channel's call.
Right, and
then because the PGA Tour has their own coverage with their PGA Tour Live. And then
the exception with Fox, the exception with Fox is that that's a USGA event, not a PGA Tour event.
Right.
Correct. Because they're showing golf at 7 o'clock in the morning until close.
And they negotiated that with the USGA. So that's
okay. All right, Brian. Who do we got to watch this week? Tell us what we need to be looking for. What players should we be watching? Predictions to me are crazy things because I think Cleveland was going to win. I thought Michigan was going to win. To show how I show my smarts there. But I've always bet with my heart and not my brain. So what type of golfer do you think? And just take it over now.
Well, I think Dustin Johnson's going to come in as the favorite. I mean, he just blitzed the field today at Memphis. Now, that being said...
Oh, thanks. I was DVR'd that. I didn't know who won. Thank you very much. Gee, many Christmas.
Well, wait a second.
Way to go.
Brian, if he had the PGA Tour Live while he was playing golf today, he probably could have watched it on his phone, right?
He could have watched it.
We have a rule at our club, no phones allowed on the course.
Yeah, and I'm sure you adhere to that rule.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
I would say Dustin Johnson would be my favorite. However, no player has ever won the week before the U.S. Open and gone on to win the U.S. Open. So he's got that going against him. But not that means anything, but it's just never happened. And it's difficult to play, winning golf in back-to-back weeks, especially when the second week is a major championship like the U.S. Open. But he is, for a long hitter, he's the straightest long hitter on tour. And you got to be straight. You got to hit fairways at Shinnecock. And especially if it's soft, his length will really be handy. And it's a long course now. It didn't used to be. Corey Pavin won there in '95, and he's the shortest hitter on tour.
Right.
But they've lengthened it. There's a 250-yard par 3 this year, uphill. But, Dustin Johnson will probably hit 4-iron or 5-iron. So it's his length. If he can keep it in play, his length will definitely be a factor. I like Justin Rose a lot too. He's playing very, very
That's what I was
well.
going to ask you about. Yeah, I think he's playing extremely good golf right now.
Yeah, and he plays hard golf courses very well. Justin Thomas might be the most complete player on tour right now. I like his chances an awful lot. Rory McIlroy, same thing. If he can drive it well, and he's a great driver of the golf ball. If he can keep it in play, I like Rory's chances. People like to say Jordan Spieth, but the interesting thing about Jordan is kind of like Tiger. Early in his career, he made everything he looked at. His ball striking was so-so, but he was winning every week because he made every putt that he looked at. Well, now his ball striking stats are off the charts, but he's barely inside the top 200 in strokes gained putting, which is an anomaly for him. Now, that's, again, he's not going to struggle putting all the time. He's such a great putter and great short game. And if he gets it together on the greens, then he's certainly going to be a factor. But he hasn't done that all year. He's putted poorly all year. So I would say the winner's going to come out of Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Justin Rose, or Rory McIlroy. Those are my 4 picks.
How important is it? Because really we haven't seen much from Jordan or Rory I think Rory had a second place finish in Europe earlier in the week or last couple of weeks, and we really haven't seen a lot of great competitive winning golf out of those guys in the last year or two. How important is that going into a week like? I mean, does their mindset change entirely as they come into this week and say, this is a whole new universe we're playing in this week? I refocus, I dial in, I leave my dog alone for the week. I don't get my bike out of the garage and go ride, and I really just, don't turn on the TV. Does it change the mentality where these guys can turn it on and off that fast and get back into it? Because I see Jordan, Spieth, and Rory McIlroy's guys who have put themselves in contention, but almost very recently, not historically for their career, they have great careers, both of them, but they disappeared on the last day. They just all of a sudden come a non-factor very quickly. And you think that's not going to be a real big issue for those guys this week?
Well, the key to playing a U.S. Open is patience. So going into the week you're going to make bogeys. So you can't. And something around par is going to be a really good score. Like I said, 4 or 5 under would be a really good score this week, more than likely, unless it's really soft. So I think these players are patient. They know they're going to make their share of birdies as well. And how many times have we seen, players lose the U.S. Open rather than players win it? So
sure,
I think, those players, I think that's how they change their mindset. They know they don't have to go out and shoot 20 under par to win. They can be patient. They can accept their bogeys and move along and, put something up around even par on the board, and they've got a good chance.
Okay. So, and you think, guys, we broached this a little bit earlier, you think in an event like this, Phil and Tiger, great story potential, but really more ceremonial than, and I hate to use that word ceremonial because they're very competitive golfers, but really, are they really considered contenders this week or not?
Well, they're considered contenders. I wouldn't give either one of them much of a chance. I hope I'm wrong on both counts. I mean, I'd love to.
Yeah, we all do nothing better if you're wrong. Yeah, we all do that.
I mean, there'd be nothing better to see Phil and Tiger battle it out for the U.S. Open on Sunday. That'd be the highest rated golf tournament ever.
Right.
But, I just wouldn't. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on either one of them.
And does it do any damage to the U.S. Open? I don't think it does myself. I'm asking kind of a rhetorical question here. I know your answer's going to be, but by setting the course up so hard, it brings a lot of not what I would call high marquee value players into this tournament. Guys, like you said, that just can play steady golf and can go out and make pars all day long. And guys that aren't the swashbucklers that we like to watch week in and week out, that get the feature pairing groups and things like that. So do we bring more of those guys into the field and into relevance by setting up the course at 7,400 yards with 40-yard fairways and windswept greens? And do we bring the field much more wide open than it normally would be on a regular event or even a different major?
Yeah, and you see that every major, especially the U.S. Opens. You'll see a couple no-names on the first page of the leaderboard. Who are these guys?
Right.
But then when they start realizing where they are on the leaderboard and what tournament they're playing, and then they start falling back. Water finds its level normally. But yeah, you'll see some guys the first couple of days that, some young qualifier or something that's having a good week, and then the weekend rolls around and he starts watching television and everybody's praising him, and he sees his name at the top of the leaderboard at the U.S. Open, and it's like, uh-oh. And then you throw that little 78 on the board on Saturday, and see you later.
Right, but if you look back the last two, lots have been held at Shinnecock. Let's face it, I don't think that when we had a show like this, if there was a show like this in 95 and in 2004, we haven't done it yet, talked about Corey Pavin or Retief Goosen, or that type of player as being what we call a contender in this event. And yet here's two players that are, like I said, Corey was a very short hitter. Retief, definitely a great European player, and in his own right, a great player now. But really, the U.S. Opens has won, the two U.S. Opens won, pretty much labeled him as a great, player. Before then, he was just a good European Tour player, but really unheralded. But yet both the last two at this course, that have won it are what we would consider to be players that really aren't going to get a lot of press time or attention up until probably Saturday afternoon. Right or
well,
wrong?
you got to remember Corey Pavin at the time was considered the best player in the world without a major championship. He'd won a bunch of times. He'd won in L.A. 2 or 3 times. I think he won 3 times out there at the Nissan or whatever it's the Genesis Open now.
Genesis Open, yeah.
But he was the best player. He was the best player in the world without a major. So he was one of the best players in the world. He just didn't have a major championship to his name. The fact that he won on that golf course was kind of surprising. And Goosen was that was his second U.S. Open. He won at Southern Hills in Tulsa as well. So, you win 2 U.S. Opens, you're a player. So
no, yeah, and I said that, yeah.
They both fly under the radar a little bit. I mean, they aren't superstars as far as, the media is concerned. But 2 very, very worthy players.
In true fashion of Mike Goodpaster, I think you're going to find a player flying under the radar right now who's going to come out and win this thing. I just think that there's the guy that's not in the super group, the guy that's not getting the attention, and I like the way you put it and said so. The guy that can go out and just make pars with confidence, 90% of the time, just before we all agree, 3 to 5 under is probably going to win this thing. All right,
let me give you a couple. Let me give you a couple names that you would call.
Talk about those players. Yeah.
John Rahm, great player.
Yeah.
Young.
I wrote his name down. I got him written down. Yeah.
If he can keep it in the fairway, he could be a guy that could win it. Webb Simpson played so well at the Players Championship. He already has a U.S. Open to his name. He's another guy that he plays steady golf. He drives it straight. If he's putting well that week, he's a guy that could win another U.S. Open. So those are a couple of guys that I would say.
Yeah, Brooks
keep an eye on
Koepka is playing well again too. Brooks Koepka is defending champion, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But this is a whole different golf course than Erin Hills. Erin Hills was a joke. I mean, as far as the fairways were wide, and it wasn't that hard. And I'm not saying he's not a great player. He is. But this is a whole different ball game at Shinnecock, and I'm not sure he's going to drive it straight enough to win there. But yeah, I'm glad to see him back and healthy and playing better. Erin Hills was hard to compare the two. Erin Hills was, for a U.S. Open course, was pretty easy.
So the key this week then is for most of these guys is just to not make mistakes. You've often heard it said you can't win the tournament on the first 2 holes, but you can certainly lose it. By just getting yourself into some really bad situations early in the round or in the first round. So the guys are just going to play steady golf, and if that be that Tiger, if he can put everything together, or be that Dustin, if he can bomb it and keep it in play, or are the guys that we're going to look at. And then I think there's a slew of unknown players that we are not to say unknown. Everybody's playing in the U.S. Open. That we know them pretty much, but guys that we aren't considering right now that are just not going to make big mistakes.
What's going to happen is you're going to have somebody shoot 66 on Thursday and be 4 under par. And then some of the big names are going to be 2 or 3 over, and you're going to think, oh, my God, they're out of it. They're too far back. They're not, because, they're going to get around even par heading to the weekend or heading to Sunday, and they're going to be right there because the guy that shot 66 is going to back up. It's just, it's going to be, again, like it is at every U.S. Open, it's going to be a test of patience. Let's put something up around par and see what happens.
Here's a good question for you. How much of that happening, a guy shooting 66 on day one on a par 70 is a pretty darn good score. How much does that rankle the USGA? And, is their course set up lockdown for the tournament, or do they go, we may just toughen this up a little bit. We don't want a 66 out there, or, we want to keep this thing in par. We get a guy shooting 66 on the first day. That means that could parlay into a 10 or 11 under by the end of the tournament. Does the USGA get rankled by something like that, or do they just let it go and say, the course we've got the course set up the way we want it, or will they not above making alterations to the course if they see somebody starting to go really low on the course?
No, they're not gonna say, wow, they shot really low on Thursday, we're gonna show them on Friday. They're not gonna go change the golf course like that just to get the scores higher. They've got their whole location set. Now the conditions could change that. If they expect high winds and they set the golf course up on Thursday for high winds and they play a little shorter than they normally would, and they shoot the lights out, then they'll say, okay, well, let's back it up again. Let's back it up to a longer distance. But the whole locations and all that are pretty much preset, unless weather dictates.
Yeah, and I get whole locations. I understand that, but I mean, I'm talking about things like maybe not watering fairways or not watering the greens or letting them,
well, they won't
hard
do that.
up a little bit.
They want it hard and fast, and as much rain as they've had, I'm not sure that it's going to be. Although, like I said earlier, the forecast is really good this week. A lot of sun. It's not going to be baking hot. It's going to be, around 70 degrees all week. So, and if they can get it hard and fast, then you may not see 66 on Thursday. So, that golf course, like so many link-style courses, is all dependent on the weather. If it blows, and it normally blows 15, 20 miles an hour there, and that's a pretty good wind. So, it could be different.
Well, you got no protection,
No.
You have no tree protection whatsoever on that course. It's just out there. Okay. What else do we need to know, Brian? I mean, what else do we need to know about
still there?
I have a question, because Steve he's kind of like, Michael Jordan or LeBron. Not when he played basketball. God knows he wasn't like that. The way he just
hijacked
all
your
the
show.
questions. I know. He just keeps talking and talking.
He hijacked it.
And the thing is, if I say anything to him about it, he'll get all butthurt, and I'll get this text, and, it's like, oh, I'll be better next time, and it never happens. But my question that I want to know is this. We did a show about a month and a half ago talking about, popularity ratings have somewhat gone down in a lot of these major sports. And the question was, what sports are set up to be the most popular in 20 years or 10 years? Where do you see golf going? Because I would think even if Tiger doesn't come back to the way he is or was, when you look at all the really good young American golfers, I would think, combine that with the PGA Live streaming, I would think the golf is pretty set up here to make a nice run over the next 5 to 10 years.
I don't know if it's ever going to be. A few years ago, when Tiger was at his zenith, the PGA Tour, I forget what they called it, they had big golf foundation meetings, and their goal was to take on the NFL as far as television ratings, which seemed a little pie in the sky to me, and it never happened, and it never will. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of really good young players, but the surprising thing to me to this point is they don't move the needle anywhere close to what Tiger does. I mean, Ricky Fowler, as good as he is and as good a kid as he is, he's a popular player, but he doesn't really drive ratings. Jordan Spieth really doesn't drive ratings, but when Tiger's in contention, there's a big difference. I did Bay Hill a few years ago, the last time Tiger won there. And the year before, Tiger didn't play because of injury or whatever. And the ratings improved the year that Tiger won. They were up 120% from the year before. So, that he drives the bus. I mean, he's the guy that can move the needle more than anybody. So as far as down the road 20 years, I don't know. I'd like to think that, they're going to continue to grow, but I don't know. I think golf is kind of is a niche sport and will probably always be a niche sport. It's popular, for the people that love the game, but it's hard to get the casual fan to watch.
Well, and I would think the only way to get the casual fan is you get a Tiger Woods or back in the day, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and it's kind of the same thing if you look at tennis. It's a niche sport, but when you had the 80s and the 70s and you had Borg, McEnroe, Connors, all those guys, you had big personalities, and it kind of blew it up.
Right.
And the one thing you really don't see is big personalities from these guys. Like, my favorite golfer is Happy Gilmore. I've never seen anybody like having Kobe since he retired.
Well, if you think back,
my kids.
Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say I was in Tin Cup, but my kids would have respected me a lot more had I been in Happy Gilmore.
Well, yeah, because I don't know how that movie didn't win an Academy Award, to tell you the truth.
No question.
It was a lot better than The Shape of Water, whatever the hell that is.
Before
Tiger
made his run, who was the next biggest golfer who moved the needle more than anybody? 1991? No, 1991?
Greg Norman.
1991, PGA, U.S.
Well, John Daly.
Yeah.
But
the common man, the common drunk idiot that went out and played golf. And he probably brought as many people into the game in his heyday as Tiger did. Tiger did it in a much more finesse way, obviously. But you look at the impact Daly had on the game of golf and the people he brought into the game, which many of the pro golfers and many of the fans didn't like the people that he brought into the game.
Well, but here's what
Tiger did.
Yeah, but here's what Tiger did. Tiger made the game cool for young kids. And now you're seeing that. You look at the players that were on the tour before Tiger back in the early 90s and, Craig Stadler and all these, they were great players. Raymond Floyd, tremendous players. But now you look up and down the practice tee now on the PGA Tour, you got real athletes playing the game now. Real athletes. I mean, Dustin Johnson is an athlete. You've got some studs out there. They're all 6'2", 6'4", 215, hit it 100 miles. Tiger made golf cool for the young kids that probably wouldn't have gone toward golf had it not been for Tiger. And that's what he did, and we're seeing the benefits of that now.
Yeah. All right, Steve, you got
let's hope
more
it gets
questions?
sustained.
I know it's been a while since you got to talk.
No, I've had fun. I've enjoyed it very much. Brian, what have you got going on with yourself right now? What are we getting out of you? I know you got a golf tournament coming up here that you promote in Indiana.
Yeah, and I'm sorry you're not able to come and play this year, but it's the St. Vincent Classic for kids in my hometown of Anderson, Indiana. We've got it's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing it a little differently this year. We've got local celebrities that play with each foursome. We've got former Pacers and former Colts and a lot of the media personalities around here that play with each foursome.
Well, Brian, the problem there, Brian, is now that I'm in L.A., I'm not a local celebrity anymore. I'm just a celebrity now. So
that's right.
I really don't know that I really qualify to be a local celebrity to play in your tournament. That's kind of why I had to have my business management team make a call on whether I should go or not, because it was just local celebrities.
Well, I'm sure that you get stopped in LAX a lot for people wanting your autographs. So
what it is this. It's Steve walking through LAX, and when people walk by, he goes, "I played for Bob Knight."
I'm going to tell you right now,
you've been around
as many people.
You've been around
there are many people in LA that know my name that do Steve Alford's, which surprises the living hell out of me. So, I hope Alford's not listening because I want to play Riviera.
But getting back to my tournament real quick, we're doing things a little differently this year. We're going to play in the morning, and then we're having a U.S. Open viewing party. We're all going to go into the clubhouse and eat and drink and watch the U.S. Open. I've got Fuzzy Zeller and John Mahaffey coming. They're going to tell stories. Of course, Fuzzy won the U.S. Open in '84 at Wingfoot, beat Greg Norman. And John Mahaffey, I think, was a two-time playoff loser in the U.S. Open, won the PGA Championship. So they're going to tell stories and answer questions. And I think we've got room for one more team if anybody out there wants to sign up. So.
And if they want to sign up, where would they go to do that?
St. Vincent Anderson Classic.eventbrite.com.
And I will say
Anderson Classic.eventbrite.com. Yeah.
I have played in this event many years, and it is truly the course they play on, Anderson Country Club, is just it's a stoic old style golf course, and it's very 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 fun course to play. Very nostalgic course to go out and play, and Brian does put on a great show. I still to this day is Carl Erskine coming back to play the harmonica for you and everything like that? Tell him about that.
Carl's 92 years old. Carl's 92 years old, and unfortunately slipped in.
Yeah, the old Brooklyn Dodgers, right?
Former pitcher for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Yeah, it was part of the Boys of Summer. He is 92 years old and unfortunately slipped on the ice this year and broke his hip. So he's out of commission. He's going to be there, but he's not able to play this year.
He
started a band 30-some years ago.
Yeah, he plays the harmonica, and I'm going to tell you, it is a treat if you ever get a chance to sit and listen to him and his group get up and play. I have pictures on my iPhone of Carl and I hanging out, and they're some of my most prized possessions. That along with my pictures of Brian. As Brian's in the Lake Okeechobee fishing for his golf ball. Brian, you want to tell him about the 35-55 you shot at Orange County National the one day?
It wasn't.
You and I were
playing? It wasn't 35-55. It was 34-47.
Okay, it was close. Comes 2 under par on the front nine at Orange County National. Makes the turn. Oh, I felt bad. I laughed my ass off though, but I felt bad.
That's called being in uncharted waters and not being able to handle it. You're thinking, hey, I'm going to have a career day today. Then you make a triple on 10, and it got worse from there.
It went downhill from 10. And the one good thing, Brian, I've never in my life made a turn at 34, 2 under, so you got me on that one. But I've never followed up at 34 with a 47 either. So
I handle it better now. I'm more accustomed to it.
Yeah, and I often wondered how you stayed on the air as long as you did, knowing the way you talk when you play golf. So it is nothing like how you talk on the air.
Well, we're on the internet, so we can talk any way we want, right?
Because
don't tell Goodpaster that.
This goes through
iHeartRadio,
and if you cuss too much, they'll actually block it. So we've had that problem.
We were blocked
Steve
on iHeartRadio.
So. No, we weren't.
I don't
we
want
haven't
to be.
been
I don't
because I've been able to keep your ass under control.
I don't do that shit on the radio, okay? I don't talk like that on the radio.
So I know you think it's cute, Steve, but it's just Bush League. I'm sure Brian.
Yeah, I hear you.
Me. I'm disappointed in you right now, Steve.
For what?
I don't know. But hey,
Brian, I want to thank you very much for coming on. It's really great. Hopefully maybe we'll hit you up again on the British Open. Who are you predicting to win?
That's
Brian?
fine. That'd be great.
Or is that a stupid question?
Well,
who do you?
I will say Dustin Johnson becomes the first player ever to win the week before and then win the U.S. Open.
I think that's a good safe bet.
That's my pick.
I think the most interesting pick, there you go. Justin Rose, you've just lost. You might as well not even go.
Oh, yeah, that's hard. I like the way Justin Rose is playing golf. I like his demeanor. I like his attitude. I think that he handles adversity as well as anybody. I also like I can't think of his name. The big tall guy, the Skechers shoes. They can't his name. Kuchar. I like Matt Kuchar. He's got a game that's suited for this kind of. He's got enough length, and he's a guy we haven't talked about. He's one of those guys. He's one of those guys we haven't talked about. He's got the length. He's got the demeanor. He's always got a smile on his face when he plays the game. He, whether it's internal or external, but he doesn't appear to get rattled a lot. I mean, even in the playoff against Jordan, Jordan took that away from him. He didn't lose that in so many words. I like Kuchar. I think he's just a guy who's just going to hang around, and he'll pounce on an opportunity if it presents itself. So I like him a lot. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead.
Here's why I wouldn't pick Kuchar, because I did the Byron Nelson a few weeks ago at Trinity Forest Golf Club, a new course that Core Crenshaw built down in Dallas, and it is a links-style, wide-open course. I'm not going to say it's like Shinnecock, but it's a links-style course, and Kuchar missed the cut and didn't like it. Now, That said, he should have won the British Open last year. I'm sorry, the Open Championship. You can't call it the British Open anymore. It's the Open Championship. Right. Yeah, right. But anyway, he should have won it last year. So he does play links courses okay. So we'll find out. But yeah, you're right. Kuchar's a steady guy is unflappable. So, and you have to be to win the U.S. Open. I
think more so in the U.S. Open than any other tournament. Unflappability is critical, and that's where I think Phil's going to struggle. I think Tiger's going to struggle. DJ, he's front running right now as good as anybody, but I've seen him fall apart too. Rory and Jordan, I don't know if either one of them have the confidence. Justin Thomas is just lurking. That guy's kind of in that mold of unflappable, and he's just kind of smiling and kind of loving the fact that Tiger's taking a lot of pressure off him right now. I know he and Tiger are close friends. You hear about it on TV and you listen to, they think very highly of each other, and he's modeled his game a lot after how Tiger plays the game. And there's another guy, Justin Thomas, just ready to go. But I think the unflappable thing is, in my opinion, is really the player you're going to look for who just isn't going to get rattled by bad things that are going to happen to you, and there are going to happen to you on this course in this tournament.
No question. No question. The guy that handles that best is the guy that's going to win.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Are we done, Steve? Or you got anything else?
No, I'm good. I'll do it with Brian. If you'll come back for the British Open, we'll do this again for the British. Or, I'm sorry, the Open Championship. Let me
the Open Championship.
Let's make this a regular event. And, feel free to bring one of your golfing buddies on board. Let's get Brandel Chambly on board. So let's get him and get his opinion. No, we get that every week.
You'd
don't need that anymore.
You'd have to do it. You'd have to do a longer show.
All right.
Yeah, that's all right.
This is what we're going to do. This part of the show will be mine because I'll wrap it up and I'll get to talk for a whole minute straight. So just
there
right
you
now,
go.
Brian, you can't go anywhere until I'm done talking because this is the only time I get to talk all night. So I want to thank Brian again for coming in. We'll be back with Survive in Advance on Thursday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Also, the rest of this week, we've got Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, live on The Grueling Truth. We'll have former Cincinnati Bengal Gary Burley on. Tuesday night, we'll have the start of our CFL Weekly Pick'em Show with Robert Drummond. Played in the NFL for the Eagles and then became a CFL Hall of Famer. Wednesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, we will have Michael Spinks, former light heavyweight champion, on. Wednesday night, we will have Inside Boxing Weekly with ring announcer Thomas Triber to talk about the fights from this week, preview the fights for next week. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Brian Hammons, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.